Welcome to Advent of Tessellations 2025. My name is Madonna Yoder, and you're joining hundreds of folders around the world on this 25-day journey into the infinite world of repeating patterns folded from a single sheet of paper. You'll discover many different twists in this challenge, building up to advanced patterns with flagstone motifs of trapezoid twists. Welcome to Advent of Tess 2025. This is day 1, and we are folding a pattern named Winter Lights. This pattern uses only closed triangle twists, the easiest twists to fold in Origami Tessellations, and all of those twists are on one side of the paper. So starting out, you'll need a piece of paper cut into a hexagon with 24 divisions of grid on it. That's 24 divisions from side to opposite side. If you're not sure how to fold that grid, make sure to sign up at training.gatheringfolds.com/advent to see the full tutorial and all of the different paper options that I have for making that grid easier. So let's go ahead and get started with our pattern. First off, I'm going to grab 2 pens, red and blue. I'll use the blue to mark the valley folds and the red to mark the mountain folds, and the other tool I need is a bone folder or some other smooth object that I can use to flatten my folds. So for the very beginning, I need to identify the center of the paper. Now I did that visually, but you can also fold your paper in half on one grid line and fold on another grid line that goes out to a corner. What I did to find that is look and see, okay, this line goes to a corner here, this line goes to a corner there. That is the center of the paper. And around that center, we are going to have a whole hexagon of mountain folds, and we will also have mountain folds out of the corners of this hexagon. This hexagon measures 2 grid spacings, so 1, 2 grid spacings on each side, and it's centered in the center of the paper. So I'm setting up all of this as kind of the precondition for what we're going to fold. And I'm going to focus in on one twist at a time. In particular, this one on my right-hand side, I'm going to focus on, and I'm going to have valley folds in 3 directions. And notice that those valley folds are not touching at the same place. Like we have a parallel mountain and valley, and then if I rotate the paper to a different orientation, we've got another parallel mountain and valley. Rotating again, we see the same mountain and valley. So the pleats in this twist are rotationally symmetric. That's what allows us to create the twist, having those plates rotating around a central point. So for right now, what I'm going to set up is just these 3 mountain folds and these 3 valley folds, and I'll ignore everything else. If you want to do this without drawing on your paper, then the mountain fold going out in this direction hits the corner of the paper. You can go ahead and set up that mountain, and the valley is 1 space above. When I talk about spaces, I'm talking about numbers of grid lines that you're passing. Then this mountain coming down and to the left is going to hit 2 spaces to the right of the bottom left corner. So 2 spaces in is the mountain and 1 space further for the valley. And the mountain going up to the top left corner is going to hit 2 spaces from the corner, and the valley is actually going to be closer to the corner. So those are your references if you're folding this without drawing. If you're new to Origami Tessellations, I definitely recommend pausing the video and doing all of the drawing along with me. It really helps to see what you're folding. From there, I'm going to press just outside of where the valley of one direction of pleat meets the mountain of the next. And if you've drawn this on, those places are going to be easy to identify. I'm saying outside relative to the center of the twist. And I'm pressing on all 3 of those at the same time. And the bit that was raised up will spread open. And then I can press from the top to smooth things out. If your twist is somehow a little off, double check that your valley folds are still on grid lines. This is particularly a problem if you are using thinner paper, because the paper isn't strong enough to hold the folds on the grid lines. From here, I'm going to move counterclockwise. So I'm going to take this pleat heading up and to the left, and I'm going to rotate that until it's horizontal and going out to the right. Then I'm going to continue, and I'll be working all the way around the central hexagon, continue to the next intersection. And I see, because I already drew where the 3-way intersection of mountain folds needs to be, 1 space out from the current triangle corner, and I'm going to have a valley fold coming right to that triangle corner. I've got the valley and the mountain, and I need to open this existing pleat, open it from the outside in until I can get my 3rd direction of mountain. So notice there's nothing in this direction coming off of that intersection. So we erase those old folds and set up the new ones. Now the valley for this 3rd pleat is kind of on the right hand side. So it folds, the flat folds down to the right. But I can also read that from how the other 2 pleats are set up. So this one is fixed in place by the existing twist. This one I already told you was laying down this way. So then we need to pick the valley on the side that makes this stand up. And then we can press. This time the corner of the previous twist is where we'll press, because there's no pleat heading off in that direction. So pressing on that point and these points just outside of 1 space from the center, the twist puffs up, and I can smooth everything out from the top. I'm going to continue around in the same way, continuing counterclockwise, taking that next pleat, rotating until that's horizontal and going to my right, and then 1 space out from the corner of the previous triangle, I will put in my new closed triangle twist. And I can do that either by setting up the mountain folds first, like I just did, or seeing where both the mountains and the valleys have to be. This is a move, I'll do it one more time slower. This is a move that I've done thousands of times, so it's somewhat second nature for me. But I'll go ahead and draw on. This time my valley is coming, well, again, this time my valley is coming to the corner of the previous triangle twist. You'll notice that it's going in a different direction than the previous valley, because it's on the top flat And these different twists are rotating in different directions. So this last one that we did rotated in a left-handed direction. This new one will rotate in a right-handed direction. And you need both of those in order for the pleat in the middle to be laying down in the same direction from each of the two twists and be able to lay down flat. Otherwise, it would have to switch over in the middle, and that's not what we're doing here. So I found all three of the mountain folds around that grid intersection, one space out from the previous triangle corner. My valley fold, as I marked for this pleat, is closer to the center. And then this third one, the valley fold, will be on the side that makes this stand up 3D. And we can press just outside of one space from the center of the twist to squash, and press firmly to flatten. Then I'll rotate. This time I have a pair of parallel plates. I'll rotate to my right hand side, and I'll start working off of the twist that I just made with my new valley fold coming to the corner of that existing twist. I'll lift that pleat into place and open the pleat from the previous triangle. Notice that while I'm doing this, I'm keeping the pleat from our first triangle completely folded flat. So that is staying folded flat, and my third pleat of my new triangle is going to cross over my previous pleat, and it's going to lay down in the way that makes this stand up on 3D. So that is something that I call a pleat overlap, because there was one pleat and now there's another pleat crossing it. The pleats are overlapping. And with this in place, I'll squash the new triangle twist. One other benefit of drawing on that initial hexagon is you get this cool star pattern in the center once it's folded, because those edges of the hexagon are coming and dipping into the center or going out to the edges on depending on whether the corner connecting the two twists is in the center or further out. So now with my pleat overlap, I need to open it up. I'm going to hold the twist that I already have stable. I'm going to reach underneath and pull out first one pleat, and I'll go ahead and emphasize the intersection of mountain folds one space out from our previous triangle corner. And then I'm going to pull out the second pleat. So I'll lift and pull out from under. And while I do that, I'll emphasize another three-way intersection of mountain folds one space out from the first triangle corner. These two three-way intersections are 2 grid spaces apart. With those in place, I'm actually going to bring both of those points over the center and lay them down, and let everything lay down flat before I pick up one of the pleats going out to the edge, and I'm going to flip it so the valley is on the far side. So the mountain stays on the same grid line. I'm just moving the valley to the far side, and that makes my triangle stand up. Now I just want to do that for one triangle at a time, so I have somewhere to press while I squash. And make that nice and flat. Then I can do that for the other triangle flipping the pleat that's going out to the edge so that the valley's on the far side, the mountain fold stays on the same line, and I can press to squash. So that is already a lot of information if you're new to folding origami tessellations. And there's a lot that I left out about why did I choose to go around in that order? How did I know that I could lay those in flat? I actually knew that from the beginning as I started working my way around in that particular order. And these are things that I teach inside of Basic Twist Bootcamp, my beginner level course for working on patterns that use the 8 basic twists. So closed and open triangle, closed and open square, closed and open hexagon, closed rhombus, and closed right triangle. And it has a lesson that is very much like this pattern, except that it reduces the overall complexity by spacing everything the same on all directions. So what we're about to do is move an extra space out for our next twist. So notice, if you want your paper to be oriented exactly the same as mine, I have this area where the layer is further down on my right, and I'm going to move 2 spaces out from the triangle twist corner that I just squashed to put in the center of my next closed triangle twist. And because the valley is down here on this side, I will see the valley fold on this top flap hitting 1 space away from the previous triangle twist. And we can set all that up and rotate around so that third pleat, I'm making sure that the valley is on the side where the twist stands up, and then we can press to squash. From here, I'll continue on the pleat going up. So I'll take this pair of parallel pleats and rotate to my right hand side. I'm not going to be repeating this exact triangle on all 6 of the pleats. Instead, I'm doing a slightly different order. So next up, my next triangle out from here will also have its center 2 spaces away. And we can see from that that our mountain fold is coming down here. Our valley fold will hit 1 space out from the previous triangle hole. And we will get a pleat overlap with the second pleat that was going horizontally out to the right as we set up our new triangle twist. Then, to resolve this pleat overlap, I'm going to follow the same rule for spacing that we had from the center out to this twist on this pleat coming out from the central group of 6. So my valley fold will hit 1 space from the corner of the twist in the middle, and my mountain fold will be 1 space further. So I'll have 3 spaces along this mountain fold, and the valley fold on this end will hit exactly at the previous triangle corner. Opening up the more recent pleat, I can find the 3-way intersection down below and lay it down over top of my previous triangle. And then opening the older pleat, I can find the 3-way intersection above and also lay it down flat. So it's not 100% essential this time to lay both of these down flat before setting up the twists, because we do have that 1 space in between that we can press on for both of them, but I find it useful to have an intermediate stopping point, and then we can set up and squash first one twist and then the other. Rotating around, this time we have a slight difference in how these layers are layered, basically, where the one closest to me is lower down than the ones further away. In this situation, I'm going to start from the topmost layer, and following the same rule, my next twist out from the central group of 6 is going to have its valley fold hit one space out from the corner of the inner triangle, and the mountain will be one space further. If you're looking at this without drawing, that mountain is 2 spaces out from the corner of the next triangle on this plate. And we're going to set up this triangle twist and press to squash. So this is an example where I've figured out, okay, for these triangle patterns, the easy overlaps are the ones that where you start from the topmost layer of the set of parallel pleats. And we'll see coming up in a few days that that doesn't always hold, at least not when there's twists on multiple sides of the paper. But for twists that are all on one side of the paper with only triangle twists, that always holds. So from here, we've got these triangles where actually on all 3 sides you have extra space. And these are both copies of that kind of triangle. So we're going to have extra space. Our valley is going to hit 1 space out from both of these triangle corners. Our mountain will be 1 space further away. And so we have 2 spaces from these triangle corners to the new 3-way intersections. And there's also 2 spaces between the 3-way intersections. And that's the measure that I typically use as a landmark when I'm opening up the pleat overlap. I'm putting the mountain where the 3-way intersections are 2 spaces away instead of 1 or none or 3. I'm looking for that 2 spaces between 3-way intersections. And then I can lay that down, pointing in towards the center, and pick 1 triangle to flip the pleat going out to the edge first, and press to squash. And then on the second triangle, I'll flip the other pleat. So this example of the sequencing is something that I get into more in another course, a more comprehensive course named Tessellation Starter Sequence, and where Basic Twist Bootcamp has 10 lessons, Tessellation Starter Sequence has 50, and it's designed to help you read crease patterns. So if you're signed up at training.gatheringfolds.com/advent, you'll get the crease pattern for each of these daily tutorials. And by the way, I'm going to grab this next set of parallel pleats and rotate that over to my right-hand side. And with 50 lessons in Tessellation Starter Sequence, you start to see more of these patterns because you have more examples of patterns that have this kind of structure where it's actually groups of 4 instead of groups of 6 and a single. And you, in Tessellation starter sequence can see annotated crease patterns, where, for example, you would have a lot more of the pattern, and you can start seeing, oh, there's a mirror symmetry line through the center in these directions, and there's also more mirror symmetry lines, and what is boxed off by those mirror symmetry lines is a group of 4 twists. It just so happens that the corners are further from the center and closer to the corners of other clusters in this case. So another place, if you're already comfortable reading crease patterns, another place where you can get the crease patterns plain without so much annotation is in the Advent of Tess 2025 ebook. But continuing with the tutorial, I've rotated to my next set of parallel pleats. This is going to look exactly the same as what we did when we had first started the outer ring around the center. So we already have this triangle, which is identical to this one. And we need our new twist that is further from this triangle. So an extra space away so they're not touching at the corners, with its center 2 spaces from the triangle corner. And that will cause a pleat overlap and press to squash. And then to resolve that pleat overlap, I'm going to have the valley fold coming and touching the corner of this latest triangle, and that valley is going to hit 1 space away from the central group of triangles. Our mountain fold, corresponding to the valley fold 1 space away, is going to go 1, 2, 3 spaces between these 3-way intersections of mountains that we're forming. And we'll lay that down over the top for now. And again, if you're comfortable with setting up all the twists at the same time, you can go ahead and do that. But it's easier for beginners to have this intermediate step of the 2 3-way intersections laying down flat before we flip 1 pleat and squash 1 twist, and then flip the 2nd pleat and squash the 2nd twist. From here, I'm going to take that next pair of parallel pleats and rotate it to my right-hand side. Here the layers are stacking up, so the higher layers are further away from me, and I'm going to start at the higher layers. I often call this starting at the top of the stairs. And we're going to start with a twist next to the central cluster, which means that we're coming an extra space out to find our valley fold, and then the mountain fold 1 space further. Putting in our triangle twist will cause a pleat overlap on the other pleat that was going in the same direction. And we'll press to squash. From here, I want to resolve these pleats into 2 more triangle twists that are next to each other, because that's what we see all the way around. And 2 triangle twists that are next to each other have 2 spaces between their 3-way intersections. I can also say, oh, those valley folds need to be 1 space out from the corner of the of these triangle twists that have space around them. And so we'll open the pleat overlap, find our 3-way intersections, and lay that down flat over the like pointing in towards the center. And you might notice with your paper that maybe you're having a hard time getting that to lay flat. Maybe it's bunching up underneath, in which case I recommend opening this up, really smoothing it out, making sure that your new folds are on grid lines, and then laying that leg down. Then, once our three-way intersections are laid down, we're going to pick one and flip the pleat going out to the edge over so the valley's on the far side, and squash our new triangle twist, and then flip the free pleat of the second. And I say free pleat, it's the pleat that's not going to another triangle twist, and squash. Okay, now we'll continue around, and this time we have 1, 2, 3 parallel pleats. We'll rotate so those are horizontal, and the way my layers are set up is the bottommost layer is further away, and then we step up and step up and step up. So I'm starting at the top of the stairs, and I need to give it an extra space around this triangle, so my valley fold will be 1 space away. My mountain fold will come next, and I can lift up my new pleat, and with 24 grid divisions we almost have an overlap up here, but not quite. We just want to make sure that both of these other 2 pleats are firmly folded while we fold across them to make sure all the folds stay on grid lines. We want to make sure that the only new folds that we're adding are when we squash twists. Okay, so now we have a pleat overlap. We've seen this overlap before, and we can say, okay, the valley fold is going to come right to the corner of this triangle and 1 space away from this triangle, because this one needs a new close neighbor and this one needs a far neighbor. Then we can open up and find our 2 three-way intersections. These will be 1, 2, 3 spaces apart. And this time, since we have another pleat overlap up here, I'm going to prefer to go ahead and squash this twist up top first. So I'm not flipping this pleat back and forth. I can just set it once and press to squash. And then I'll come back to this bottom one whose pleat going out to the edge isn't running into anything, and press to squash. Then, continuing onwards, we have an overlap between 2 triangles that have extra space around them, and that means that my valley fold is going to hit 1 space away from each of these triangle corners. My mountain fold will be 1 space further out than that, and there are 2 spaces between these three-way intersections. Then I'll open up, finding those three-way intersections, and lay both of those flat with the flat folded in over that valley fold. Then I'll pick one to squash first, and then the other, and we have made it all the way around. And this concludes the tutorial for winter lights. So, like I was showing earlier, there is a way to repeat this pattern infinitely. And specifically, what you'll see in this infinite repetition is groups of 6 and solo triangles. groups of 6, and solo triangles. And one other thing about this particular pattern is that it works really well on a diagonal grid on a hexagon. You'll notice that for the tutorial, the edges of the paper ended up wavy, but in this version, the edges are straight. And that's because I used a different orientation of grid on the hexagon. And I do have tutorials on my YouTube channel, Gathering Folds, for how to fold diagonal grids on hexagons. The other thing I want to show you is the backlighting for this pattern. If we shine light through the paper, then we get this wonderful snowflake type pattern. We get to see that on the back as well. And when we look at that with more repeats, we still see a very snowflake-like structure. Now, this is not the only way to continue folding with this central snowflake of triangles. You can also throw in some rhombus twists. So if you're a more advanced tessellation folder, I definitely recommend trying this pattern as well, which also works well on a diagonal grid on a hexagon. And you can find the crease pattern for both Winter Lights, and this one is named Winter Rings, in the Advent of Tess 2025 ebook, which you can find at gatheringfolds.com, origamiusa.org, and origamishop.com. So this one also conveniently has all the twists on one side. And like I mentioned before, Basic Twist Bootcamp, Tessellation Starter Sequence, these are great resources for learning to read the crease patterns in the Advent of Tess ebooks. And you can find all of those resources at training.gatheringfolds.com. There's so much to learn, and I really do think that learning to read tessellation crease patterns is a lot like learning to read English or Spanish or whatever your native language is. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of examples to learn to recognize, oh, where are the symmetry points in the pattern? What is the structure? What twists are used? What are the relationships between the different twists? And what does that mean for how I should fold it? So that is why Tessellation Starter Sequence has 50 video tutorials and annotated crease patterns and all the rest of it, and ongoing office hours so you can come and ask questions if you're having trouble. So there's all kinds of resources available to help you fold more origami tessellations, and I look forward to seeing what you've folded. And you can tag me at Gathering Folds on Instagram or Facebook, and use hashtag Advent of Tess to help other people find this series of tutorials. So happy folding, everyone, and see you tomorrow when we're folding another pattern with all triangle twists, but this time some of them have open holes on the back. So happy folding, and I'll see you there.